Hello, my name is Brianna Kelly, and I'm currently an investigative intern at the Public Defender's Office of San Diego County, currently located at the North County branch in Vista. I initially found this course through the San Marcos database of internships. I was interested in this specific internship because I will be starting law school in the fall to study to become a criminal defense attorney, so I believed that having an internship at the Public Defender's Office would be a perfect fit for me. At our location, we work hard to give our clients the best representation we can to either prove their innocence or help them receive a lighter sentence if they are in fact guilty. The direct contact that I have at my internship site is mainly with the investigators in the office. These are the people who work side by side with the defense attorneys to gather evidence, interview people, and pull records on our clients in hopes that there will be enough evidence to help prove our clients' innocence and remind the judge and jurors that they are human beings with a history just like all of us. Some of the tasks I am responsible for include requesting and obtaining medical records, school records, and employment records, social media searches for witnesses and victims, surveillance analysis, analyzing transcripts for audio and videos, pulling prior court case records, and accompanying the investigators out in the field to canvass neighborhoods and interview people. As far as our clients go, we primarily work with people who are from minority groups. This is very common because we are the free legal representation available to those who cannot afford private attorneys. Because many of our clients are from a low socioeconomic background, they grew up poor and had no decisions in the circumstances they were forced to live in. This makes them vulnerable to needing to resort to criminal behaviors in order to survive or find a sense of belonging. It is important to consider the demographics of our clients because it allows me and everyone else at the office to better understand the significance of our work and how much it can impact people's lives. A very interesting connection between my internship and my education is that my intern site works with many clients who are part of minority groups and would typically be studied by sociologists. A sociological perspective would also help me understand how our clients have been failed by society for them to end up in a position where they need legal representation. This also makes it easier to understand that the people accused of crimes have external factors that have led them to be in that position, unlike what the media portrays, which is that the person's individual decision to commit crimes or associate themselves with those who engage in criminal behaviors. A common issue for children and teenagers engaging in lifestyles that may not be typically accepted is primarily because of the lack of opportunities they are given and the struggles that they face. It is unfortunately very common for most of society to write these children off as the other. People are very quick to judge children for the places they live and the conditions that they have to work within, without realizing that they and their families were forced into the positions in the first place. Rather than reach out to provide resources and help in a more meaningful way, most people will criticize these people for being in positions or only provide help on the surface level. These ideas of only focusing on the victims of crimes rather than the victims of society's crimes lead to a large social stratification. It manifests the idea of them versus us and that all bad behaviors are due to individual choices. This is something that I find very important to remind myself of while I'm engaging at my intern site. All of the investigators at my internship get along and work together extremely well. They know how to perfectly balance having fun and joking with getting all their work done and providing the best quality of investigations that they can. There's a bit of a divide in the office between attorneys and investigators, but I would say that about half of the attorneys are very good about interacting with the investigators and interns in the same way that they would one of their fellow attorneys. There honestly is not too much of a power dynamic aside from seeing a slight divide between the investigators and attorneys, but I think that is primarily because they are so focused on their tasks at hand that they can't relate to each other in the same way they could someone at the same job title. Throughout my short time at my internship and by taking this class at the same time, I've been able to acknowledge all of the social problems that affect my internship. We have a multitude of clients who range between victims and perpetrators of child abuse, alcoholics, drug addicts, people with mental illness, people involved in prostitution, and clearly the most obvious, those who have allegedly committed a crime. By taking all of these factors into consideration and understanding that every one of these issues is a social problem, I can better assist these clients. This is because I am capable of understanding that their actions are not necessarily a product of their individual decisions, but a reflection of the position society forced them into. I believe that my internship definitely helps people in poverty because that is the majority of our clients that we have at the Public Defender's Office. Many people come from families and backgrounds where they grew up in poverty or were forced into poverty because of abuse and neglect from their parents and guardians. Poverty is a huge reason for why people turn to criminal behaviors in order to survive because they are living in conditions that are miserable otherwise. Our office tries very hard to give the best representation possible to either lower charges or have all charges dropped against our clients. Another large part of this mitigation, which allows us to humanize our clients and allow people to recognize that there are other factors, such as poverty, that can lead to a person being accused of a crime. Another issue that we handle at my internship is labeling. Although the labels that are commonly seen at my internship are more along the lines of people being deemed criminal, they are also labeled for being lazy or being responsible for their own situations. I believe that these labels can carry the same weight because both being deemed lazy and criminal can force people into situations where they cannot get jobs or qualify for certain living spaces. I also believe that they both condone the idea that these people are the only thing responsible for putting them in their bad situations. Because of these labels, people are constantly questioning me, providing aid for the alleged bad guys, and claim that I am simply trying to get people off. When I try to explain that everyone deserves proper representation and that people are supposed to be presumed as innocent until they are proven guilty, people contest with the idea that no one would get themselves in a situation to be arrested unless they were asking for it. This is a very common interaction that I have with people who are not fully aware of the work that we do at the Public Defender's Office and are not familiar with the concept that there are social factors that can cause people to be in those situations. I believe that this creates a cycle where people will believe it's true that all people accused of crimes could only be in that situation because of their own actions, which leads to impoverished people being targeted because many laws limit them or do not protect them equally, and this then leads to jurors finding people guilty of these crimes because they're stuck in the same mindset, and then this continues on and on again. People tend to view the public defenders with a negative view because they believe that we are just trying to get bad people out of situations they put themselves into. And although there may be some cases in which people did consciously choose to put themselves in bad situations, that's commonly not the case. Many of the clients at our office have not only been labeled at risk, but they are also viewed as bad people, even if they have not been found guilty of a crime. As soon as someone has become a suspect of a crime or is arrested, people begin to believe that they must be a bad person. Unfortunately, as much as our legal system attempts to implement the concept of innocent until proven guilty, society has already planted these ideas that anyone in a situation to commit a crime or be arrested for a crime must have done something in their lives to put themselves in that position. By allowing myself to better understand why people would be in these situations, I think I'm giving them a far better chance of still being acknowledged as a human being rather than being thought of as an oversimplified label. I believe one of the biggest issues that we have to handle is the lack of privilege at my location, primarily because we are forced to take every case that is given to our office. Our attorneys and investigators are almost always overwhelmed with their caseload, which can essentially affect their work. This can be compared to private attorney practices, which get to select cases that they take on and how many cases they work on at a time. On the most basic level, those private attorney practices are going to be able to provide better legal representation because they do not have to overwhelm themselves, whereas the public defender's office has to take every case, no matter how many there are. This shows that people of a low socioeconomic status will be at risk of getting poor legal representation, not because the attorneys and investigators do not care or do inadequate work, but because they legitimately do not have the time or resources to sufficiently assist our clients. The privilege here is clearly wealth. Anyone who can afford a private practice attorney will have the opportunity to have a team really focus on their case and increase the likelihood of a positive trial and investigations. Although my internship has been one of the best experiences of my life, there are some improvements that can be made to create a better environment for the Public Defender's Office. A negative that I have noticed at my internship site is that there is an issue with many other internships is that the proportion of work that needs to be done versus the number of volunteers and employees. I have found that there has already been moments where I feel slightly overwhelmed with the amount of work that I have to complete because we don't have enough people to spread out the workload. As I mentioned, the attorneys and investigators are almost always busy and overwhelmed, and the interns are in very similar situations too. A recommendation that I have to help improve my intern site is to have more people involved at the public defender's office react to criticism in the same way as Carlos, the investigator that I interviewed for our class project. For example, when I had asked Carlos what challenges he faces at his job, he mentioned a few. The first he explained was having to deal with people criticizing him for providing assistance to those who allegedly commit a crime. He expressed that people will continually ask him, "Why do you do this if these people are monsters?" And he said that he uses this question to create a learning opportunity. He starts by explaining that everyone needs legal representation and then explains what the public defenders actually do. This could help lessen the stigma that our office has, also while teaching people about our justice system. Another improvement that we could make would be working with other organizations to educate people in the criminal justice system about mental health and provide better access to care. For example, when I had asked Carlos how he felt about privilege or a lack of privilege plays a role in the public defender's office, he mainly focused on the lack of privilege that our clients with mental health issues face. He said that when a client has mental health problems, he has to talk to their family and peers to ask if they knew about these health issues. He said that most times when he does this, their family and friends say that they showed many signs of mental health problems, but that they never received professional help, mainly because they could not afford it. Another more general critique of my internship could be that it would not be able to function if people stopped committing crimes or stopped getting caught committing crimes. This could essentially just be feeding into the corrupt criminal justice system more so, because on a large scale, the criminal justice system needs criminals in order to operate. Overall, though, the biggest recommendation that I can provide for the Public Defender's Office to provide even better service is to receive more funding to employ more attorneys and investigators and afford better resources to help their work. Obviously, this is a more difficult adjustment, but it is the most necessary one. Carlos mentioned in his interview that the large workload that comes with being an investigator. People continually criticize the public defender's work, but fail to recognize that they are not going to be able to produce amazing work. They're forced to take on more cases than they can reasonably handle. By the government providing them with more employees and resources, it could help the investigators and attorneys not feel as overwhelmed and stressed, and would allow for a higher quality of work production. In conclusion, this internship has been absolutely life-changing for me. This internship allowed me to have a hands-on, independent internship where I could assist our clients who lack privilege in society. As I mentioned, I want to become a criminal defense attorney, so this opportunity gave me the first chance at working within the system and seeing what it's really like. This internship reinforced my drive to go to law school and become the best attorney that I can. This internship also introduced me to some of the most amazing people I've met. My supervisor is hands down the most wonderful man. Every single person within our office that I've spoken to has had nothing but wonderful things to say about him. He works extremely hard, helps everyone, and makes a fantastic leader and role model. Everyone I had the pleasure of working with was so helpful and genuinely wonderful, and it makes me extremely sad that I'm going to have to leave the office. Not only did they teach me so much, but two of the investigators, one of which being my supervisor, actually wrote me letters of recommendation for law school. They also celebrated just as much, if not more, when I got my first law school acceptance letter. I would not trade this experience for the world because it has made me feel so much more confident in my decision to pursue a career in law. I would definitely recommend this internship to everyone.